10 Liverpool deals that have changed the reputation of the Anfield transfer plan. Liverpool for a long time were held up as the gold standard for transfer business, owing to great synergy between Jurgen Klopp and then sporting director Michael Edwards. Together, they helped turn the Reds from a club floundering to one that would conquer the Premier League and the Champions League. The side was very much built in Klopp's image, with each brick being carefully placed to create a team that Pep Guardiola regards as his greatest challenger. Liverpool mixed smart scouting with a shrewd know-how for a player's worth.
Love watermelon but hate the sticky cutting mess? This compact 2-in-1 tool slices neat cubes and flips into a retractable fork for easy serving at parties, picnics, or home. Want to get the best verified deal and see full details? Visit grabdeal.us/3 right now.
They rarely overpaid, and often they got players who left you thinking, how did he only cost that much? But after their Premier League success of 2020, the Reds began making signings and sanctioning departures that suggested their level had dropped. Edwards left. He would later return in a more senior role, but has again chosen to walk away. Once upon a time, it felt like Liverpool didn't spend big on a player without him proving to be a major success. More have failed to deliver, and, as they transitioned from Klopp to Arne Slot, there's undoubtedly been a period whereby the Dutchman wanted to adopt more of his personal principles, rather than living off the Germans' groundwork. He has ultimately been moved on, and now it's Andoni Iraola trying to get a tune out of a Liverpool squad that is full of talented individuals that perhaps lack an overall direction or plan. We take a look at the signings and the exits over the last decade that made Liverpool's recruitment and retention the envy of the league, and also those that show they've become susceptible to a big deal that is yet to bear fruits. For all the big names through the door at Anfield, none represented greater value than the Scot, who was signed from Hull City for just £8 off the back of their relegation to the Championship. Still, Klopp saw something in Robertson and bought him into the fold. He didn't necessarily hit the ground running, but within 12 months was one of the best performing, most energetic left-backs in the top flight, and he would go on to provide years of service, rarely letting his level drop. Signing the former Chelsea winger, who failed to cut it at Stamford Bridge, for £40 million off the back of some impressive years in Serie A made sense, but still represented an element of risk. His high pace, counter-attacking style perfectly suited Klopp's system, and a goal at Watford on debut would set him on course for a record-breaking first season as he claimed the Golden Boot. The goals would keep coming, and when he eventually left Anfield, he did so as their third greatest goalscorer ever. Only months after Salah signed to complement a frontline that included Coutinho and Sadio Mane, the Brazilian was allowed to leave for Barcelona. It was clear he wanted the move, and Klopp obliged, happily saying yes to the £142 million deal. Whilst an elite player left, the funds they received allowed them to reinvest in areas that posed more of an issue, and his departure would ultimately ignite the path to league and European glory. The Dutchman was effectively signed with the money Liverpool raised from Coutinho's departure, and they still had more than enough left over. Van Dijk had established himself as one of the best defenders in the Premier League, and within weeks of moving to Anfield, it became clear he had taken Liverpool up a level. He also served as one of the great examples for remaining patience. The Reds wanted a defender in the summer, but waited until the January because they were convinced Van Dijk was their man. Another example of Liverpool knowing when to let a player go. The German wanted a major pay rise as he embarked on contract talks with Liverpool, where he had been performing, but giving him parity with the likes of Salah was ultimately an extreme move. Liverpool chose to let him run down his deal and can never hit those heights again, jumping around clubs in the years after. One of the few major Klopp investments that you looked at and thought it didn't work. He performed, but not to the level many expected after he proved to be such a hit at RB Leipzig. Liverpool signed him ahead of time, paying his £48 release clause in 2017 before he arrived a year later. It has to be said, few wouldn't have wanted him when he was tearing it up in Germany, but he never looked totally settled in the midfield and is maybe the only blot on Klopp's recruitment record. Liverpool went after the Uruguayan forward, landing him from Portuguese side Benfica on a 6-year deal for an initial £64 in 2022. He had scope to become the club's record signing, with the fee rising to a potential £85 with add-ons, but despite having moments in the spotlight, he massively underwhelmed. He had scored against Liverpool in the Champions League, but ironically, it was his finishing and composure that continued to prove his greatest weakness before he was offloaded to Saudi Arabia. The playmaker was a British record signing, but former Red Jamie Carragher was quick to flag that Liverpool paying over £100 for a player didn't feel like the Merseysiders, instead seeing it as more of a Real Madrid blueprint. The Red system didn't necessarily lend itself to a playmaker, and 12 months on Liverpool are still trying to find a position that suits Wirtz. His lengthy wait for a first goal in red also did little to help his difficult start. So many questions still swirl around this deal. Liverpool broke the British transfer record twice in a matter of weeks. They went after Isak when he made it clear he wanted to quit Newcastle, but they'd already signed Hugo Ekitike, who had begun life impressively. So far, Isak's move is nothing more than a disaster, with injury restricting his game time, seeing him score just 4 times, but even when he's been fit, he's looked a shadow of the sensation we saw at St. James Park. After highlighting their ability to know when a player should be allowed to leave, letting Konate depart on a free could age badly. Already, Areola is talking about them being thin at the back, with injuries hitting their defensive line, and Konate's quality was enough to attract Real Madrid's attention.